Hello and welcome to week 4 of the 2024 Mystery Quilt. Hi, Linda.
Hello, Aubrey. How are you?
I'm excellent. So I saw a couple people in the comments. I'm actually sweating my tail off in Ohio this week. It's super hot. I saw someone in Pennsylvania have the same situation, and then I come in the office and I'm freezing. So that's how I am. How are you?
How am I? We're having a bit of a delay. I think you said, how am I? I'm great. It's 89 degrees here, so I'm right there with you. So I'm staying in the house today.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. So we're up to week 4, believe it or not. I will say we are aware that we do have an issue with streaming over to Facebook, unfortunately. Sarah and I ran some tests on it, and it seemed like everything was fine. And then, of course, it did not work again today. We have posted the YouTube link over there. So hopefully people are finding that okay. And I will say, when in doubt, use the link in the email that takes you to YouTube. Maybe for next week, but we'll keep trying to get that figured out and sorted out. But it's good to see many of you have found us live, which is wonderful. So Linda, I know we've got a little delay here, but why don't you tell us what you got in store for us today for week 4?
So we have week 4 block. It's called Sarah's Choice. It's not named after Sarah, but she probably would like to think it is. That's just actually the name of the block. So I'll show you the block today. So we're going to do 5 piece blocks and 5 quilted blocks. So we have an A4, a B3, a C2, and a D1. So this is where the piece blocks are going to join up with the quilted blocks. And then the last piece block is down here in the corner, which you can see just a little bit of it. And then these are the quilted blocks.
Oh my gosh,
so there it is, the whole quilt.
Feels weird when they see the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I've really, really, really enjoyed looking at everybody's colors. It's just been a lot of fun to do that. So keep it coming.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
It says no sound on YouTube. Hopefully they're getting sound on YouTube.
I think that's just one person, because I saw another person said they have sound, but Sarah's going to check for us real quick.
Okay, awesome. So I can go over to the demo cam. If you'd like me to start the block, I can do that next.
All right, let's do it. And sound is good on YouTube. We gave it a double check.
Yay. Okay, so I'm starting over here at the machine today. And we'll kind of walk through what we're going to do. This is Sarah's Choice and our directions. And there's a Sarah's Choice 1 and a Sarah's Choice 2. The actual stitching is the same on both of these blocks. There we go. But the fabrics are in different places, of course, to make this pretty little star. So Sarah's Choice 1 will be on this side, and we will need 4 of your fabric 1s, 3 of your, I'm trying to remember that this is fabric 2, and 1 of your fabric 3 for this one. And on this side we need, for Sarah's Choice 2, we need 2 of your fabric 1s, we need 3 of your fabric 2. Now these are all triangles, 1 of your fabric 3 and 2 of your fabric 4. So we're going to get started. I've already stitched the first 2 steps, which are your placement stitch as well as tacking down my optional wool batting. And then we're going to do that in wash away thread. I did it in a dark color so you could see what I was doing. So now I'm ready for step 3 for Sarah's Choice 1, and that is to take my blue fabric, which is fabric 2, And I'm going to place that in this upper corner right here, making sure I have 1/4 of an inch extended past that placement line that's stitched in the block. And we'll go ahead and tack that down. So I forgot to mention, you'll notice that on this particular block this week, instead of having 3 little columns, we're actually going to have 4. So your wool is actually going to be thinner than the last few weeks. So there is our first step. And now, because I'm going to be doing seams, I'm changing out my water-soluble thread to my neutral thread. I happen to choose to use Aurifil for my neutral thread. You can use some embroidery thread if you want, just something neutral. So I have my fabric 2 tacked down. The next step is 4, and that's to take my background fabric, which in my case is the white, and that's going to go right side to my fabric 2. And because this is a darker color, I am going to trim inside here a little bit off of there. I don't want that blue to show through on my white fabric. And then my white fabric, which is my background, will go just like this, right sides together, making sure that blue doesn't peek out on the diagonal edge, because we don't want that to show through. And now we'll stitch the seam. Then we flip it up, smooth it out really, really well. Stitch the tack down. Next fabric is fabric 3, which is my purple. But again, I need to trim this. I'm always going to leave the outside edges alone until I'm finished. I'm going to trim this, leaving a scant 1/4 inch. And that will finish this way, so it's going to flip up this way, making sure you have extensions on each side. And then we'll stitch your seam. And all of this is being done with my neutral thread. So we'll flip this up, smooth it out. We are now on step 7, and this is a tack down step. Then we need to trim this again, leaving about a scant 1/4 inch. I'm using my mini hoop scissors. My next fabric for step number 8 is going to be my background fabric. And that will go right here. Another good reason to trim this, because it's a dark purple and I don't want that to show through on my finished block. We'll stitch that seam. Flip this up. Smooth it out really well. And tack it down. And this is step 9. Now we'll trim this. We're on step 10, and that's going to be another white, and that will go like this, right sides together. It's really nice when you have fabric that doesn't really have a right and a wrong side. You don't have to worry about it too much. We'll flip this one down and smooth it out. Let it tack. Giving that a trim. And step 12 is now going to be my fabric 2, which is the blue. So that will go this way, right sides together. Stitch my seam. We'll flip this up. Give it a good finger press and smooth it, and then let it tap that down. And then we will trim this. We're on step 14, which is another seam, and it's background fabric again. So right sides together. Make sure that's trimmed small enough so that you can cover that up so it doesn't show through. Flip it down, smooth it out really well, let it tap. And this is step 15. So now I will trim this. And the last piece of fabric to go down for step 16 is going to be my fabric 2, which is the blue, right sides together. Let it stitch the seam. So step 17 is the tack down around this whole block. And I've discovered that on this particular block, we have some interesting little seams right here. So what it's going to do is it's going to tap down and go around this whole block. And depending on your foot, my foot tends to want to catch this. So I have decided, and I do have this in the instructions, to use a bit of painter's tape or any low tack type of tape. And I'm going to actually put this right over the edge of my fabric to kind of hold it down. I'm keeping it away where the machine is going to stitch because you do have a little seam allowance there. So my tack down will just, it might catch there. So I don't want that. I'm going to turn it a little. There we go. And it'll just keep that from my foot from flipping that. So I'm going to change to my water soluble thread now because this is my final tack down. I'm not going to worry about this. I can control this with my hand like normal. But if you do this, you will hopefully avoid any little mishaps, which I'm going to show you one later that I had this week. We've all had our little mishaps with our sewing machine, I'm sure. So the directions do mention this. So if you have a little bit of painter's tape or like any low tack tape. So here we go, and we can slow this down too. That also helps. I'm going to keep this one smoothed out. There we go. We have a beautifully pieced block. I'm going to leave that tape on there for when I do the actual quilting. The quilting is next. It's the final step of this particular block. So we'll get this one going. So there we go. We have Sarah's Choice 1 all finished. And if you were watching, you may have noticed that I did get this little piece flipping over right here. So you may even want to put a little piece of tape there. Now I've made like 20 of these. That hasn't happened once, but today it did. So just to give you a little chuckle. Look at this.
Looks like you had a mouse in your sewing room.
Yeah, I did not have a mouse in my sewing room. I think I had a dull needle and it just decided I turned my back for a moment and I heard a different noise that I'm not used to hearing. And I turned around and it was kind of sewing in place right here. And I had 10 of these little puppies in one hoop. And I thought,
Oh no.
And it was way in the upper left corner. Thank goodness. So I was able to stop it and surgically remove this block. Actually, I cut out this little piece. I left the rest in there and I moved on. And then I had to go back and make this later. So have you guys had anything happen in your sewing room like that? It's always something, right? So that was Sarah's Choice 1. So now we're going to move on to Sarah's Choice 2. I've already stitched step 1 and step 2. So we've got our tack down stitches as well as our placement stitches. So step 3, excuse me, we're going to take our background fabric 1. I'm going to switch out to my water soluble for this step. These machines, it's like they know when you're not watching, and that's when you're going to mess up. She was feeling cranky that day.
She said, pay attention to me.
Yeah, don't you dare turn your back on me. So, all right. So, fabric 1 is this little rectangle or little triangle up in the upper left corner. I have my water soluble thread in, and we will stitch our cat down. And this is the same process. It's slightly, I think it's mirrored, and the fabrics are in a different location. So that's fabric 1. Now I can take that out and continue on with my neutral thread, which I like to use Aurifil, as I've stated before. I had that holy block in the trash, and I decided to dig it out because I thought you'd all get a kick out of that. So step 4 is a seam, and it's going to be my fabric 2, which is my blue. This will go right sides together. Stitch the seam. Flip it down. This is going to be step 5. So we will give that a little bit of a trim. Step 6 is fabric 2 again. So that'll go this way. Right sides down, right sides together. Stitch my seam. And we flip it down, smooth it out, tack it down. So that was step 7. The next one, let me make sure I'm in the right place, is going to be step 8, which is going to be green. And that will go right here, right sides together. Stitch my seam. Flip it up, smooth it out, tack it down. And this is step 9. Then we need to trim it. Step 10 is going to be fabric 2 again, which is the blue. In my case, right sides together. This will stitch the seam. Step 11 is to flip it right side up and tack it down. And I trim it. This one was pretty good. I probably didn't need to trim it, but I did. I started, so I got to finish. So this will be step 12. I will take another fabric 4, which is green, and put it right sides together to the last one. Stitch the seam. Flip it, smooth it, and stitch the tack down. That tack down was step 13. And the trim. Step 14 is to take fabric 3, which is my purple. We'll put it right sides together. Stitch the seam. Flip it down, smooth it out, and tack it down. So that's pretty close there. I don't feel that I need to trim that. My last piece of fabric is my background fabric, which is the white. And this will be step 16 for the piecing. And we will place that right sides together, making sure I don't see any of that purple sticking out so it doesn't show through. So step 17 is where we put our water-soluble thread in to tack down all of these edges. I would slow your machine down, and I would use some of that handy tape. And just make sure that that foot can't catch those tricky little seams. I'm going to go down this far. You could probably also use a stiletto or something, but I personally like to keep my fingers away from the needle if possible. And just to prevent any problems, I'll do that side as well. All right, so we have our water-soluble thread in. We're ready to do our tack down. You can tell I did slow it down. So there we go. We're all pieced. Now we can just do the final step, which is the quilting. There are a few questions to be answered, Aubrey, while this is doing its final step.
Yes, ma'am. I've started a couple. Some of them are just comments about their boo-boos too, but I thought they were cute and you should look at them.
I like to share boo-boos. It's always fun. All right, let me get this started and then I'll take a look. Okay, let's look at some questions. Judy wants to know, what have I done wrong if the basting stitch isn't close enough to the corners of the blocks when joined together? I think I need a picture to know what you're referring to, Judy. So maybe you can post a picture. um, Sometimes when you're doing this, the basting stitch won't be exactly on your quilting line. And so if that's the case, I think what I would do is follow more of the quilting line. Because sometimes you just have a little bit of movement in your hoop, so that could be the problem. And hopefully you're using battleizer in the hoop just the way we are. You're not doing anything besides that, because that's how we do test them. Gail. Hi, Gail. My needle fell out and pulled a block out of alignment this morning. Oh, I've had that happen too. Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? And Joan says, oh, yes, you know the sound of your machine, and when you hear a different sound, you run. Yeah, I like to say I lunge, depending on where I'm at. Mary wants to know why I use Aurifil instead of embroidery thread. I'm only using it for anything I do seams with. I just like the way it sews on my particular machine. You can use embroidery thread if you like. There's no problem there at all. So there it is. No mishaps on that block today. So that's good. So yeah, Mary says she also uses Aurifil to sew her blocks together. So what I'm saying, and I do as well, Mary, but I use it in my embroidery machines when I'm piecing my seams. Embroidery thread also works just fine. So Pat wants to know, what color thread do you consider neutral? It depends on your fabric. In my case, I'm using white. On my other sample behind me on the wall today that was black, I would use black or a dark gray color. Cheryl wants to know, how small can you make frankenbats? Can you frankenback a leftover piece twice? You could probably frankenbat as long as you want to. I mean, if you want to sew little pieces together, you can. I just butt them. I don't overlap them, so you don't have any additional thickness. But yeah, you can keep going. Patricia wants to know, the quilt digitizing has been fantastic. Just was wondering what software you use. Well, we could tell you. We use Hatch to do our digitizing. Been using it forever, since day one. I think Janome had their own version of it, and then we went into Hatch after they quit supporting it.
I think it was just you. You designed it. She said it's fantastic.
Oh. Yeah, you can make anything fantastic with any software if you know how to use it. So if you try to put me in front of a software I don't know how to use, it's not going to be so fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, Kathy, can you stretch the half square triangle quilt designs to be larger? I've been wanting to quilt half square triangles with my embroidery machine. I really like those scallop and straight line designs in your half square triangles. I would say stay tuned, right, Aubrey?
Yes, stay tuned.
Yeah.
Get ready.
You can make on your sewing machine, you can, on probably most machines, you can make designs bigger, but we really don't recommend it. It can mess up the stitching.
Yeah.
So, but stay tuned. We have something coming with half square triangles that we think you'll love. And Maggie says she has frankenbatted 1-inch pieces together. Oh, you are amazing.
Goodness.
She used it in a quilt. You cannot see that it's frankenbat. No, you can't. It just takes a while to do it. Okay, Aubrey, I am going to switch my camera.
Okay. And while she does that, just so that everybody doesn't get dizzy, I want to take you over here. And this is a quick reminder. We talked about this last week too, but this is coming up. Sarah, you're in the room with me. Are you excited for tomorrow?
I'm so excited.
We're going to be live a lot this week. But I definitely wanted to remind you, because your chance at getting our absolutely free gift for just registering for this event ends tomorrow at noon. So go to hoopsisters.com. It's free to register. It just lets us know that you're interested in joining the workshop. It will give you this free mug rug that's super duper cute. And we've got a lot of fun things and surprises going on tomorrow. So make sure that you go ahead and get registered for that. Okay. All right. Let's see. We also have the pop-up shop coming up. And again, that's at Sewing Concepts in Woodstock. I got to go back and flip my thing back. So Sewing Concepts in Woodstock, the Woodstock location on Friday, August 9th and Saturday, August 10th. We would love for you to register for this. It doesn't cost anything to attend and register, it just helps us with planning. But I don't know, Sarah, have you decided if you're going yet? I'm going, Annie's going, Linda will obviously be there. So this is going to be a nice, fun event. We're talking about some different demo stations to be able to show you guys some things in person too. So it should be a lot of fun, and we hope to see you there.
I'm going. I just won't be any help.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Sarah's
bringing someone with me.
Yeah, Sarah and baby are coming, I think. So, all right, Linda, I've got you all set up on your demo cam.
Oh, by the way, I wasn't going. I'm going on vacation.
Oh, stop it. You're not allowed.
Just kidding. Okay, so here we have my 2 blocks. I'm going to go ahead and remove the tape. Don't need that anymore. But it did save me and my fingers, so I appreciate its efforts. So now, in your instructions, like we've been doing, it does talk about your trimming. So I'm going to make this block an A4, for example. So A4, I have to take my Sarah's Choice 1, and I have to make an edge for the batting, which is what I've done here. I have a Sarah's Choice 1 block all trimmed with my 1/4 inch for the batting. So you want to mark your block name at the top of all of your different sections of your quilt. And you want to pay attention to the orientation. So if you look at this one, this is the same block, but for F7, it's actually rotated. So you want to pay attention to that. Get all of your blocks labeled at the very top with the appropriate block name, and that way, and the orientation, and that way when you go to trim them, you'll get it done correctly. So anytime you see red, that's when you trim a 1/4 inch through all layers. See on D1, it's just at the top. And then some of them are no red at all. So you're going to trim all sides using the trimmer by George. So once you do that, well, maybe I'll trim one really quick just to show how the trimmer works in case there's a newbie around. So this one, we're going to trim all 4 sides using the trimmer by George. So the trimmer by George is a 4.5 inch acrylic ruler by 12.5 inches. And it's got a metal edge on one end. And we use this to trim away the battleizer on the back of the block. And you do it by putting the metal edge down and giving the trimmer a little bit of a shimmy. Lay it down flat. And then a 16 millimeter rotary cutter you need because you need the height of the blade to accommodate the metal edge. And you just trim away the battleizer, and it's protected your fabric in the front so that you don't cut a hole in your fabric. So I'm going to do all 4 sides on this particular one. You always want to make sure you have no fabric coming out right there. So once you get the battleizer trimmed away, you'll see that's what it looks like on the back. And then you can trim away the front fabric. And I sometimes like to do that with the wrong side facing up because I can see a little bit better. And I will turn the trimmer over so that my ruler side is now facing up, and I'll use the 1/4 inch line on the ruler and put that on the very edge of the battleizer. You can even put it on the basting line. I can't see the basting line, so I go ahead and use the edge of the battleizer. It doesn't really matter which one you use, the basting line or the cut edge of the battleizer, as long as you're just tidying up your seam allowances. So there we have one trim block. So now we're going to join them together. Okay, I believe I need to get this one trimmed for you as well. This is going to be my A4 with my batting on the edge, or my battleizer is on the edge here. And this is because this is where the binding will end up. So I'm going to get this one trimmed. Now see, I have a little bit of purple fabric sticking out. I don't want that, just in case. There we go, no fabric. And we'll flip it over and trim our 1/4 inch. Okay, everything's trimmed. So we'll lay out our block, and it's going to go like this. This is our block layout. So the first thing we need to do is sew them together in pairs. So this one's already sewn together. So now I will pin this one. So we'll flip it right sides together. And again, we're going to always pin our match points first. So I'm going to put a pin right there in the center, right there on my seam allowance, or my seam line, my basting line. Pass it through to the second block. Give it a pinch. Put a second pin in, take the first pin out. Repeat that at this match point. This block has quite a few places you can match it up, so it's pretty simple to do. Come across, pinch it, second pin in, first one out, and then we'll go ahead and do the corners. Give it a pinch, second pin in, first one out. And the corner is last. So now that it's pinned, I'll take it to the sewing machine and I will stitch right on that basting line. I lower my needle right there. I back up a stitch or two, and then I stitch right along on that basting line. And I do another a small back stitch at this end. And this is what it looks like after it's stitched. So we'll open that out. And then you'll stitch the two together in the middle, which is what I've done here. So now we're going to give it a press. On our other blocks from the last 3 weeks, I told you which direction to press them. On this one, since it's 4 sections, it doesn't really matter because it doesn't really line up with anything on a previous row. Whoops, this is not on. I gotta let that heat up. It was turned off. So I'm going to go ahead and use the strip sticks. And this is a wooden stick. We have these on our website. It's flat on one side, curved on another side. You lay the flat side down, and then you can place your block right directly over the curved part of the stick and press your seams, and it doesn't flatten out all your pretty quilting. I do like to use a little bit of Mary Ellen's Best Press to give my seams a little bit of a squirt. And like I said, this one, it doesn't really make any difference which way you press it. I like to press it on the back side first, and then I turn it over and give my front side a press. I am going to press them all go in the same direction. You can probably see I have this block labeled B3. So I've got my quilt ready to go, except for these 2 blocks that I'm stitching here with you today. And I will get those put in my quilt as soon as we're done. So there we go. There's your block.
It's so pretty. I was just going to ask you if you were going to finish this sample, so it was completely done.
You want to see half of it?
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to finish it. Okay, I'll show you half if you want to bring me up. Here we go. There's half.
Oh, that's so pretty. So pretty. Look at that.
Yeah.
The quilting pops on that white too.
And that's just white on white. And it's
Yeah.
such a beautiful texture. But I love everybody that's doing that. I love all of them. They're doing different colors on your plain fabric in the middle. It's just so pretty.
Mm-hmm. Lots of people doing, well, not lots, but I've seen several like variegated threads too that are really pretty.
Variegated threads. And I even saw, I think one person even had like a print in here, which was also very pretty. Nice. It's just, this is a very modern design. So speaking of that, we can talk a little bit about different layouts too, or different
kind of like
options.
It's modern, but almost like with traditional blocks. So that's pretty
exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
Okay, so Lisa has a question I'm going to pop up on screen for you. She said, I didn't follow the directions apparently, and I've just pressed my seams open. Will that be a problem?
Well, you mean when you sew your blocks together, I'm assuming, Lisa. I have a hard time pressing these seams open because of the tiny little bit of battleizer that's left in your seam. So that's why I press it to one side. So, but I do think there's a few people out there that do press them open. I just prefer to press them to one side. The directions are specific on which way to press them. And I did that so that when you join this block to this block to this block, your seams will be opposing. So let us know how that goes.
Also, Joan says she likes week 4 the best.
Thank you, Joan. Maybe it's the name. Okay, so I was going to do a little screen share, Aubrey, and show them my a little bit about
One Block Wonders.
One Block Wonders, but also, hold on, I can't talk and click at the same time. A little bit about layout and assembly. Even though we are doing this next week, the layout and assembly, and also the quilting flat files for the back, I thought I'd talk a little bit about it. And I'm doing it in here so that I can actually move them and show you. You can see it, right?
Yep.
Oh yeah, like you can.
Looks
Okay.
good.
So you can see I have these kind of broken up into sections. So this is how I like to do it. You can either take, 3 across, 4 down, or, just do a group. And you could sew these together. You could either do it in columns, or you could do it in rows. You could sew them this way. You could do it in rows. So you could sew them in columns or rows and then join them together. And then you have a nice, easy chunk to work with like this. This is the side I just showed you. And if you follow the pressing directions, all your seams will be laying nice and flat. There's even pressing directions in the final layout and assembly that you're going to get next week. But basically, if you're a quilter, you know when to press them opposing. So I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on that, because I know a lot of people are already starting to put their quilt together. So hopefully that makes sense. And then I'm going to talk to you about a few different things that you can do with these designs. When you're done making your mystery quilt. So this, waiting for it to catch up with me. This is a 9-patch little quilt. This would be a cute little baby quilt. I'm taking just the 9-patch block and doing every other one with the quilted 9-patch block. Put a pretty binding on it, and it just would be a really cute quilt. And you could do that, obviously, this layout with any of the 4 blocks that we have in our mystery quilt. This is an Ohio Star layout that I did. And again, you could do it with any of the blocks, where we put the Ohio Star piece blocks around the outside edge and the quilted ones in the middle. This too would make a cute little baby quilt.
That's really cool.
This is Friendship Star. I didn't put
wow.
any of, the secondary design on here is kind of neat, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's
there's no quilted block on there at all. It's just the Friendship Star repeated.
very cool.
That was kind of fun. And I did the same thing with Sarah's Choice. I just put a bunch of them together, and that also made a really pretty secondary design. And you could even border it with the quilted blocks. So that kind of gives you another option.
Oh, there's lots of things you could do. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So hopefully that will help.
I love that. You can do lots of different things. And then I did see a question here that I know we know the answer to. Pat asked, when do we get the edge-to-edge quilting for the back, if that's the way we decide we want to go?
That's coming next week. So we're gonna show it to you next week, and I'm gonna do a little demo on how to do it. And I should have my quilt finished, so that'll be on the wall behind me. So I'm excited for that.
I'm excited to see that one finished too. And honestly, the edge to edge, the back of this one is one of my favorite parts of this quilt. It's up there. It's really cool. So I'm excited for everybody to see that next week. Very cool, says Mary. I agree.
I'd love to show you. It's right over there.
Yeah. Not yet. All right.
No.
Not yet, but we will have it. Joan, I think we're going to talk about this next week too. we're going to talk about the back a lot next week. It's basically all the back next week. So stay tuned.
It is. Mhm.
Stay tuned, and we will talk about that for week 5, which is our final week next week. So we're moving right along. And I think that's all we have for this week, but the files for week 5 will be in your account next Wednesday by 10 in the morning Eastern time. And then we'll have our final live and show you the whole back next week at 2 p.m. Eastern. So, okay. Anything else,
All right.
Linda?
I don't think so. We're good.
All right, you guys, we'll see you next week. Happy sewing.
Bye.